Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode. I really hope that what you guys just said didn't come through at the start. I have no idea if it did, because I definitely pressed the button before you said it. We'll have to wait and see if it does. That'll be interesting. I'm joined by the boys from the Arsenal Lounge. Lev, how you doing, mate? You good? You well?
I'm good. I'm happy. I'm well. Just interested to find out what you have to say on the transfer window, mate. It'd be quite interesting.
I'm more interested to see what Shaheen has to say, because my goodness, some of these takes. How are you doing, Shaheen? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm okay. Not bad. I'm glad that I'm back on your channel. Thank you for having us.
So let me get it straight. You invite me on your show and then tell me you're more interested in what Shaheen has to say. That's nice. That's nice, mate. That's all right. That's all right.
Look, if this is going to be an hour of you two trying to bully me, I can tell you, having control is nice. It's very nice indeed. Just listen back quickly and know it didn't come through at the beginning. So we're golden. We're all good. We're all good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be joining us in the world, in the chat box. Hope you're doing good. And well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to have a listen to us wax lyrical about Arsenal as we chat about our first signing. Confirmed. Arsenal finally got the ball rolling on their summer with 19-year-old Marquinhos from Sao Paulo. Lev, how over the moon are you with this signing?
Oh, this is the one I've been waiting for, Tom. This is it. Like I've been waiting for months to hear about this. No, look, at the end of the day, I understand we've got to go out and get sort of the future prospects. There is a slight concern for me that it sounds like we could have got him on a free. Edu wanted to build some sort of long-standing relationship with Sao Paulo, so it's like almost like a golden handshake, 3 million. So it's just another 3 million Arsenal just throw away. But other than that, listen, I'm open to it. I'm not adverse to it. Sounds like the lad's got talent. He's someone for the future. What can we say about it?
Well, let's see what Shaheen can say about it. Let's see if he can say any more. What do you think about this one,
No, Lev said more than me. I have no idea what he's like, if he's any good, if he's not any good. This was going on the background for a while now, but to be honest with you, I have no interest whatsoever in this signing.
Absolutely nothing.
It's probably one for the future or something. So it's not something that I was looking forward to. This guy is going to come and make a difference to our team now. So yeah, he's here. Why we had to give him a golden handshake, as Lev said. I don't understand.
You don't know why we gave them the extra. Well, why we chose to pay the fee instead of waiting and exploiting the scenario and getting him for free. Do you know what the scenario was? Like why we paid the money and why we could have got him for free?
Do you? Because if you do, I'd like to know.
Well, the scenario was basically that if Arsenal could have really screwed Sao Paulo over because of this kind of really strange ruling with players over there that on a certain point in their deal, like I don't think his deal was up. Like it's just some strange kind of situation where they could have waited a month and he could have left for nothing. And Arsenal could have exploited the situation and got him. Wolves, obviously, as we know, wanted him. Atletico Madrid was supposedly interested in him as well. And so Arsenal moved to secure the deal and paid some money. And also, of course, as I think it was the CEO or the president of Sao Paulo came out and basically explained the situation, said that, that Arsenal want to build that relationship between themselves and the Brazilian side. So, and let's be honest, 3.5 million euros to Arsenal is nothing. It's peanuts. It doesn't mean a thing. Like, if it means that we build a relationship with a club that we can get some talent from in the future, I've got nothing to say about this. This is a club that have produced some very decent players recently. We've seen David Neres come through. We've seen Anthony at Ajax. It's very linked to Man United recently. Casemiro, of course, who's at Real Madrid. This is a club that has produced some very decent Brazilian players. And who knows, Marquinhos might be the next one. And if he isn't, Arsenal might be able to get themselves the next one in the future. So now you know that. Does it change your opinion about the golden handshake, as you put it?
Not really.
I didn't think it would.
No. I mean, look, yeah, okay, they've done something that, they got a guy that might turn into something. Yeah, all good, great. But I'm more interested in the now problems, the problems that needs to be addressed now. Somebody who's going to come in and get us 15, 20 goals a season next season. I don't think
we're going to do that.
They purchased this guy with that view. What position does he play, by the way?
Winger. He's like a right winger.
Yeah,
but can play on the
wide
left as
player.
well.
Yeah,
He does
So,
look
yeah.
like a talent. Let's look. He does look like a talent. I'm not going to say he doesn't, but I think I share Shaheen's sentiments in the sense that, all right, yeah, we've got this guy through the door, but we know there's more pressing matters, and we want to see that there's a clear plan for that, really. And right now, we're all up in the air, and no Arsenal fan seems to have a clue what our club has planned for the transfers.
Well, I think we have an idea in terms of the positions that we're after. Clearly striker is on the agenda, central midfield is on the agenda, a wide forward, a full back. If Tavares goes on, I don't see how we can't sign a left back. But we'll wait and see. Just very quickly, a massive thank you to FTL Gooner Craig in the chat box, rocking the hell out of that new kit. It's very nice. What can I say? It's just a nice one. Will you two be purchasing the kit this season? Any of them?
I'll get the black one. I do like the black one.
So you were shaking your head at this one, though. You're not like this. You don't like it. You don't like the home kit.
I don't mind it. No, I was shaking the head at the way the guy was just blowing smoke up your ass for rocking the hell out of your shirt. I'm only joking, Craig. I'm in a funny mood today. I hope I don't upset any of your TGT crew. It is only said in jest.
In the chat box on another Monday night in the future. So,
right.
Shaheen, not planning on getting one of the kits this summer?
I don't know.
Preferably one that fits.
The black one seems okay as well. So I don't know. I'll wait and see.
Fit that one.
I'll wait and see if they sign anybody that I like to have the names at the back of the shirt or something. I might consider buying.
You going for the pro one that's extra tight, or you going for the standard one you buy from the shop?
I'm going for his none of your business size. Yeah,
last year I didn't get the
one.
pro one, and I hated the material of it. Like the material of the replica one, it's just not very nice. So I got the what's it called, the authentic one, which is strange that they even have two different ones anyway, but yeah.
Craig liked it anyway, Tom. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the main thing. Craig's happiness, and we're very happy that you're happy, Craig. Absolutely, and thank you for the donation once again, fella. Let's move on to kind of the conversation, which the Marquinhos deal. I wanted us to move on from this, which is about kind of if you think this window is going to be successful. Now, first of all, to talk about whether or not we think it's going to be successful, we have to establish what success would be for us in the window. So, Lev, I'll come to you first. What would be a successful window for you, all encompassing, ins, outs, and the like? And you can speak as vaguely or as specifically as you like.
Okay. Look, firstly, a successful window for me would be get rid of the last sort of ebbings of the dross that we had from previous, the ones that were sort of really adding to the depth of the squad. But more importantly, what I want to see is decisive and ambitious moves. I don't want to see us waiting till sort of the last week or two of the window. How many seasons have we gone? And I'll ask you guys in the chat as well. How many seasons have we gone into the beginning of a season not ready, even not having done our transfer business, or players not fit and missing 2 or 3 games at the beginning and throwing points away? So what I want to see in short is I want to see decisiveness in the window, a clear plan, addressing the issues that we have. We need another striker. I don't want us to go in with Eddie Nketiah as number 2. I would rather him as a third backup, maybe. I want to see 2 strikers, ideally. One may be a more of a target man, one more sort of a quick, dynamic sort of goal poacher, and then I want someone that will cover Partey if he's injured. Look what happened to us this season when Partey got injured. Our midfield was obliterated, as well as Tielemans. It's not enough just Tielemans. Tielemans is box to box. We needed someone else to replace Partey in case he's injured, like Bissouma. If a fullback's going to go, make sure it's somebody that's can come in and take a position. Rather than just call him a fullback, and then when we fall back on him like Cedric, they're found wanting, or Tavares in a sense. So, and that's what I want to see. I want to see decisiveness, and I want to see quality coming in that will balance out the youth that we have, because I think we put too much on their shoulders this season, and it sort of paid the price at the end.
Shaheen?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think we should go for future signings this summer. I think we should go for players who are established, to come in and make a difference now, because that's what we need. We're going to be competing in 3 or 4 competitions next season, hopefully, if we don't get knocked out first round again. So we need the squad depth, and that's when you can rotate players and everybody can get games. But again, like Lev, we're desperate for goals up top. I don't think Eddie Nketiah is the answer. I think we actually scored an own goal with the amount of salary that we've offered to Eddie Nketiah. And
not accepted it yet, by the way, Shaheen.
Yeah. He's on the release list, and that's the more this is going on, the more it bothers me that we've even offered this guy this money and he's still, I don't know, unless it's been all agreed and they're just waiting for the right time to release it. And that is a very Arsenal thing to do. So yeah, I couple of strikers, a really good established strikers. I prefer us to look at Premier League first, because if you sign somebody from Premier League who's established here, the period they need to come in and settle in the league and get to know the Premier League and get up to speed on all that is out of the window. They can, if you get somebody like Bissouma, there is not going to be that time that he needs to settle into the league and all that rubbish. He can make a difference straight away. Jesus will be another one that can come in and make a difference straight away because he already knows the league. Whether I think Arsenal will do that or not is a completely different matter, but this is what needs to happen. And you know what? You mentioned the left-back position. I think we should sign a left-back anyway, because if Kieran Tierney, it's not if Kieran Tierney, when Kieran Tierney gets injured, I don't have confidence in Tavares coming in and key games and put in a solid performance as a left-back on a regular basis. He can come in, put one or two solid performances, and then he'll go have a stinker. So that's the area we need to look at. A right back as a backup for Tomiyasu. If he gets injured again, you've got Cedric coming in. And again, if you're in a business end of season like we were this season, and he gets injured, you got Cedric again coming in, who's, we all agree, not good enough.
Fair enough. Let's see what some of the guys in the chat box have been saying. Rahit says 2 strikers, a wide forward, Xhaka upgrade, Tierney equivalent as a backup, Ødegaard backup, Eddie only for the UEFA Europa League and Cup games, and will be a successful window. Byron says a successful window would be a quality winger, a quality striker, and a quality centre mid, and a backup in midfield who can play across the park. Jason says we need Jesus and Tielemans sorted before pre-season, then another centre mid and striker, but ideally all business done before the season starts. And Clock Orange says 5 players, 2 mids, 2 forwards, 1 fullback, Bissouma as one of them, Jesus, Tielemans, Osimhen, and Hickey in there. My expectation is I don't think we will sign 2 strikers on top of renewing Eddie Nketiah's contract. I don't think that will happen. I think there's an opportunity that we'll sign a wide forward, hopefully a blooming good one, that gives us kind of that goal coverage across, because that's always the big question about Arsenal, obviously, is goals. We haven't had it from the number 9 position for some time, especially since Aubameyang and Lacazette moved on and Aubameyang's form dipped after that contract renewal. We haven't had genuine 20-goal striker since Aubameyang's contract was basically renewed. Do we think Jesus has the capabilities to be a striker that can score 15 to 20 Premier League goals if he's given that kind of responsibility, Shaheen?
It's debatable, man. It's 50-50, because there's an argument to say he hasn't had a run of games. And I've talked about this with Lev before, and that's his point of view, that he hasn't had a decent run of games at City to get those total goals. And my counter argument to this would be maybe because he's not on a level to lead the line on regular basis. And he's been in the Premier League for 3-4 seasons now, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And I have not seen, I think his best goal scoring season is 18, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, in terms of all competitions.
All competition, yeah. But in Premier League, I mean, last season, I think he scored 8 goals, set up 4 assists.
I think something like that, yeah. I'll have the stats.
And so, again, I'm looking at this thinking, this is, again, another risk signing kind of thing. He could come in and he could start banging in goals. Yeah. But then again, he could come in and he could be, another 10, 12 goals a season, a striker in the Premier League. I'd like us to go for somebody who's a bit more quality, a bit more established. But then again, we'll put ourselves in a position where that sort of players probably may not look at us as their favorite destination. I mean, everybody was talking about Darwin Núñez a while back, and everybody, and see how easily he's just gone to Liverpool, and I give them credit, Liverpool. They recognized a target. They said that's the guy we want. They went out there early doors, got the deal done, finished. The player can now go on summer holidays, enjoy his summer holidays, come back mentally ready, because he knows where he's at. He knows what is expected of him next season. Join the preseason, gonna have a nice time with the team, get to know the team, the way Klopp wants to play. First game of the season, guy is ready to make a contribution. Whereas left said, Arsenal, we tend to leave things towards the very end because we want to get a bargain or want to get a better deal. And the season, the preseason has already started. All of these things has started. 3 games in the season, a player walks into the changing room now. And he's just trying to settle in. So in terms of Jesus, I don't know, man. That's the genuine answer. I don't know. It doesn't fill me with great confidence that this guy is going to solve our problem. And another issue on top of that is if he gets injured, then you got Eddie Nketiah who's going to come back in.
Yeah. Wayne says, my favorite collection of YouTubers, isn't it a curious case as to why no team has come in for Bissouma? He's still facing, obviously, that investigation that's going on at the moment. And what happens if he loses that? It's something I picked up on your show that you did yesterday, actually. I think Bissouma came up in conversation. And, I struggled with the point of view that was raised about kind of, I think Dan said about he doesn't think that Arteta wants him because of the attitude. I think there's a slight, with respect, a deviation from that. This is a very serious allegation, of course. It's not to do with attitude. It's not a question where Arteta's looked at and goes, "Oh, I'm not getting Bissouma because of an attitude issue." Look, Arsenal aren't going in for Bissouma and haven't since this situation arose. So, and I can't blame Arsenal for not going in for that until there's an element until these cleared of the allegations. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, we should just go for him anyway. Like, there's no justification.
But Tom, wouldn't you agree that there are people who are well placed to advise on this sort of matters, to see the paperwork, know the case? Like Arsenal can easily get a QC or someone like that to advise them on the matter. And if it was that serious, I mean, look, I don't want to talk about that matter, and I don't want to say it's not a serious allegation, and our thoughts go to the victims of this. Alleged victim of this. But if he was that serious, he probably wouldn't have played for Brighton.
Well, we don't
like the Mason Greenwood situation.
But we could argue if, say, in the end he is found guilty, that there'll be criticisms of Brighton for playing him. So if that happens,
but you got this thing that is guilty until not guilty until proven.
Of course, and it's
so Brighton within what they're right. Say, as far as we're concerned, at the moment, is not guilty until proven.
Absolutely, but what I would say is that at the moment we have a choice. That we have a choice of whether or not we would go in for him or not. Brighton have a choice about whether they would play him or not. He's their player at the end of the day, and they've used him whilst going along the lines of innocent until proven guilty. However, for Arsenal to say buy him, there's a situation where you're then taking on him as the responsibility.
I get that.
Yeah,
I understand that, and I get that thought process to a certain degree, but I just think, and I think maybe they have done this, possibly that's why they are not going ahead with this, because there are people who can advise on how serious the case is, what could be the consequences, the evidence that is involved in them, and again, another reason I'm not sure why this hasn't gone to a trial, so there will be some sort of a conclusion for everybody involved in that matter.
The latest on it is that I read in a Brighton-based newspaper that he's been released, but continues to be under investigation basically at the moment. That's the latest on it. And I think that the other person involved, it's been delayed until maybe October, but don't quote me on that. I think so. It's going to go on past the transfer window. So I don't expect Bissouma to go anywhere. I think he only has a year left.
Tom, do you think other clubs are in a similar sort of situation as Arsenal? That everybody's thinking it might be about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why you're not really seeing any strong links with him. And we saw, Aston Villa were very interested, and they then went and got Boubacar Kamara instead on a free. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's why we're not seeing anyone really linked with him, because of this ongoing alleged situation. So, and until that's resolved, I don't think we will. So that's why, obviously, when it gets brought up, I wouldn't necessarily question Arteta in this, or question his view of a player based on attitude. It's certainly something that I would, be open to chatting about, but it's just not. I just don't think it's one that we can point to the club and go, I can't believe you didn't go and sign him. Like, I just don't think it's something we can criticise the club for. When it comes down to that talk about when we do our business early, when does the word early finish, Lev? And what I mean by that is that at what point? Is it the end of June? Is it now? Is it the first pre-season game? When we make signings, at what point does it stop being constituted as getting business done early?
When you're getting to the business end of the season, where you're playing your pre-seasons with a view to starting your first game of the season, for me that's too late, right? You should have all your players in before pre-season, so that when the pre-season starts, you can start gelling them in, bedding them into the team, and working from there onwards with a view to your first Premiership game. And you should be aiming to start off your Premier League campaign with 3 points straight off the bat, start it strong and move on strong. I mean, the 3 games we lost, 2 or 3 games that we threw points away last season, that could have attributed to us not making top 4, for example. Then there's a load of other things, don't get me wrong. But too late for me is waiting till the team's starting to play in preparation to start the season, and you still haven't secured a striker. You still haven't got a centre midfielder. Everything's up in the air. That's too late for me.
Fair enough. Shane, when would you say it stopped being early business?
Possibly the first week.
Why have you gone to a Dalek? You become a Dalek, mate? I don't know what.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
You just take your mic out and put it back in again.
Shaheen, exterminate. Can you say that for me? Can you just no?
Who's trying to fix it? But the reason why I'm asking the question is because there's a lot of criticism about the idea that Arsenal aren't getting the business done early. Like, people are panicking, people are getting frustrated. But I'm sitting here quite chill right now because it's still really early. If Arsenal could get their business done in 3 weeks' time, Jesus and Tielemans could be in the door in 3 weeks' time. And I think that if we do that, all of this hysteria wouldn't have been completely unnecessary. Do you know what I mean, lad?
Can I ask you a question then?
Absolutely.
Are you confident that in 3 weeks' time they're going to have everything wrapped up and done?
I think that by the first pre-season game, which is on the 8th of July, there's a good chance we'll have our priorities done. And what I mean by that is the main striker that we want to sign and the main midfielder, which in this case seems to be Jesus and Tielemans. So I think by the first pre-season game, I'm confident, I would say, I'd give it a strong 7 and 8 out of 10 that those 2 positions, be it Tielemans and Jesus, would be done. Yeah.
And you're suggesting that Jesus, that's our prime striker target.
He's our prime striker target without a shadow.
So he's the striker. That's it. There's no other striker coming in, and then Eddie Nketiah is number 2.
I think that's the situation.
That's not good enough for me.
And then I think a wide forward they will target if and when.
Jesus can play wide.
Yeah, he can.
So why not get another striker and then bring Jesus in as well? That's what I
think that maybe is why we see the links to Scamacca as well. That's why maybe we see those links to Scamacca. It's because
Osimhen, another one.
We see Jesus as a player that can play wide, and so if they aren't liking the other wide targets, they'll then go for another striker, thinking that Jesus.
If they do that, Tom, if they get Jesus who could play in a 3, and then if your main striker gets injured, you can also go Jesus instead. That makes sense. If you're telling me Jesus as his main striker and then maybe another wide player and then Eddie Nketiah as number 2, you're asking for pain again.
What I would say is that if they're paying Eddie Nketiah a wage that goes up to 100 grand a week,
agree with you.
They're not doing that for him to be third choice.
No, and that's worries me.
I agree with you. Can you hear me properly, by the way?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, because that's what I meant earlier, that we've kind of scored an own goal with the amount of salary that we've offered Eddie Nketiah. One, I totally agree with you. They would not have offered this sort of money to somebody who's going to be backup or just going to be left out. He must have been promised a certain number of games as well as that salary. That's one. The other thing is, when the time comes to renew or start negotiating with the likes of Saka or Martinelli, the first thing that, if I was Saka's agent, I would turn around and say, you got Eddie Nketiah that could potentially earn 100 grand a week, Saka, twice player of the season, very important player to the team, regular. You know, my starting point is about 160,000 pounds a week. Because if you're not paying that, Man City will, you know, and I think that's the problem with us. That's the issue that I have with the amount that has been offered to Eddie Nketiah. And to be honest with you, I don't know if you guys agree with me. Is Eddie Nketiah £100,000 a week striker?
Well, I mean, if it is a case of it's a base salary of 100 grand a week, then no, absolutely not. If it's a case of he's say 50 grand a week with 50 grand worth of bonuses, then I think there's more of an argument, especially when they've put Balogun on 40k a week, you know, So if it's a 50k a week deal with a 50k worth of goal bonuses, appearance bonuses, all of that stuff, or say 60, I think 60 would probably be the maximum that I'd pay as a base salary, or as probably a full salary, to be fair, in a real world.
Do you know what, Tom? Eddie Nketiah's scenario, I much prefer that for it to come to an end with Alexander Lacazette.
Yeah, so do I.
Moves on, go to another club. All the best. I hope you make it another club, and then we start fresh where we are. Because now, this is one of those things that has been dragging on from the beginning, from the end of the season. Nketiah this, Nketiah that. Is he, does he deserve it? Does he not deserve it? But he still hasn't signed. Why is he not signed? It's a distraction that is not needed. I much rather this episode come to an end and he moves on for good of his career, and we'll get.
It's a distraction that's not warranted.
Yeah,
distraction from what though? What do you mean by distraction?
In a sense of like we're wasting time trying to secure this lad, right?
We can do more than one thing at once, though, Lev.
Can we?
Well, have you seen?
That's how
football works.
Seen all the previous transfer windows. I'm not that confident, but the fact is, he's not good enough. It's as simple as that. Even as a number 2, he's not good enough. So for me, all this distraction and wasting time could be better spent getting the type of players that are good enough.
He clearly sees something in him, because he's been desperate to keep him. Like he's been saying in the press conferences, I want Eddie to stay. We're trying to sort out a deal. And if he goes on to replicate 5 goals in 8 starts like he had at the end of last season, you would say it's justified. But the problem is I just don't see him getting the starts like he has been, because we're obviously going.
Do you know what, Tom? Another issue that I have with this, what the stat that you just mentioned. What we need to also remember this, right? That this was the best time, the absolute optimum time for Eddie Nketiah to put himself on the shop window, right? Because he's now thinking, right, there's a chance that I might leave Arsenal. Okay, Lacazette is not getting a game. This is time for me to show everybody what I'm about. So then when the time comes, and if I want to negotiate contract with a different club, I've got something to fall back on, and I can demand a high salary, and there will be people who would want to take me on, because if I come in the 4, 5, 6 games that I'm getting a chance and I don't do well, there's not going to be a lot of clubs that I want them that would want me to go there. So we need to consider that, and we also need to remember this. For the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years, as far as I can recall, every time we've given somebody a contract that is bigger than what they deserved, they have not performed well after that. And, we've got, just to name a few, Aubameyang, Ozil. We gave them big contracts. After that, nothing is happening.
At the end of the day, he'll justify the move himself. If he does really well next season, no one will talk about how much he costs. No one will talk about it. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with Eddie Nketiah. On kind of the central midfield, what, Lev, do you make of Yuri Tielemans as a potential option? Is he of a level that you were expecting us to try and go for?
Listen, I like Tielemans as a player. It was only a couple of seasons back at Leicester. He was brilliant. And I think as an 8, he may come good. And everyone's looking at his last season. But let's be honest, we've experienced what it's like having a player that's not mentally there anymore, doesn't want to stay, doesn't want to play. He switches off. So I don't think we could be judging Tielemans. I think he's an excellent addition for another.
Would you want to play like that in your team? Because what if he comes in and then there's a bit of it's not that
there is that. Yeah,
imagine
there is
something
that.
like this happens.
There is that one slight level of concern, which is a good point, Shaheen. But again, with the striker situation, Tielemans is not enough to sort out that midfield. He is not, because Tielemans is not Thomas Partey. Lokonga is not Thomas Partey. Xhaka isn't Thomas Partey. We've got an abundance of midfielders that just don't cut it. And the only way, and that's your engine room. It's your engine room. You can't like have a Ferrari body and have a flipping Fiat Punto engine. Do you know what I mean? That's what we're running with at the moment. So as far as I'm concerned, Tielemans would be a good addition. He would strengthen our midfield. He would balance it out, but we still need another enforcer just in case.
Yeah, I think that Tielemans for me is the type of signing that I've wanted Arsenal to make, for a long, long time. Yeah. Looking at who the best players are in other Premier League teams and bringing them into the club. When it comes down to Granit Xhaka, though, and how he's affected by this is where I think maybe we'll deviate, because I absolutely agree that we should be upgrading on Granit Xhaka. Don't get me wrong. But for me, upgrading doesn't necessarily mean the word replacing, because realistically, Arsenal aren't going to be able to get a centre mid on top of Tielemans, in my opinion, that's as good as Granit Xhaka. Because for all his faults and for all his issues, he is still a very good central midfielder for when he's playing really well. He's not good enough if Arsenal want to get top four and be our starting centre midfielder week in, week out. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's of that level anymore, but he's still very, very good. So what I mean by strengthening is you sign Tielemans, but you keep Xhaka, because I just don't see us going for another midfielder that's going to be as good as him in the window. I just don't see it.
You don't think we can find a midfielder as good as Xhaka?
Well, tell me who you think.
Well, look, we all said Bissouma, but we know the issue with Bissouma.
Yeah, we can't get Bissouma, so that's off the table.
I think, Lev, I don't think it's a question of finding somebody who's better than Xhaka, and I think it's a question of money. I think because they may be looking at this and they're thinking, I'm assuming based on what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, right? I'm assuming the budget is not that great at Arsenal, right? And they just cannot go out there and afford a top, quality couple of midfielders, couple of strikers, a right winger, and all top quality players. I don't see that happening. So they're going to be thinking, right, maybe a quality midfielder, and that will solve the midfield problem. We can get away with, El Neni. Remember, they've given him
hold on. Bruno Guimaraes is better than Xhaka. Why didn't we get him in January?
Well, we both said that. Like,
I mean, that's a question.
But saying to say that we can't get better than Xhaka is incorrect.
No, I'm not saying that. That's not us not
moving. I didn't say that, though.
Yeah, I know, but we're saying we're unlikely to. That's what.
No, what I'm saying is we're unlikely to if we make a signing that's already better. So we bring in Tielemans, right?
Different
then
type
you
of
were
player.
saying that we want to move. Yeah, I know he's a different type of player, but he's going to play in that left centre mid position, or sometimes he's going to compete with Ødegaard maybe for the right hand slot. But everyone is looking at Tielemans as coming in to take apart Xhaka's position in central midfield, so we can become a little bit more progressive. And we got Partey as the more defensive mind, then you got Tielemans and Ødegaard who can be more forward thinking. But the idea that we would bring Tielemans in and then Arsenal would go and, sign someone as good as Xhaka or better than Xhaka is going to be tough, because any signing that we look to is going to look at that midfield and go, well, you've just signed Yuri Tielemans. So why would I go to Arsenal and have to compete for a place when I can go to somewhere else and get a guaranteed starting spot? Like, for instance, Elliot in the chat box said, like, Fabian Ruiz, who is someone I've harped on about for a while at Napoli, available for £25 million this summer. I think he's better than Xhaka. But I don't know why Fabian would come to Arsenal knowing that the position he'd be coming into is then going in to compete with Tielemans. So I don't, and that's the issue.
And you know what, Tom, I'll go back to what I was saying. I just don't think the money is there for all of these players to come. So they're going to have to pick and choose.
Yeah, but
what needs to be addressed most urgently, rather than they may think one player in midfield and that's enough. Then we've got Partey, you got El Neni, you got Xhaka, and we can get by. That's all right. So we utilize the funds for a forward. I genuinely think that is the case. It's not. I mean, sadly, there is not enough money for them to go and buy all of these players that we're talking about here.
Well, it's interesting because when I think about how much we're going to spend, I would have assumed and put a pretty good guess in that it would have been similar to what we spent last summer. Because I think we'll move more players on. The finances are in a position when you break them down from, what they revealed is that actually this summer, because of the refinancing situation, that we have wiggle room. We have money to spend if we want to spend it.
What the money they're talking about, Tom? How much?
So, they refinanced with £200 million loan that came in. Do you remember when they've been Kroenke and Casey did that refinancing? And when we did the breakdown of the finances when Mike from the Gooners pod, his numbers basically that he'd worked out showed that this summer Arsenal are heading towards a point where they're going to have more money and more room to spend, but they don't have the drawbacks that they've had in previous years. The problem, I think, is that Arsenal will feel like if they can't get a player that they deem good enough, they just won't do it. They won't buy someone for the sake of it. Whereas I look at the summer and think, if you've got like 150 million to spend, which I think even maybe now, based upon the reports and based upon what we're hearing and seeing, that might be a bit of a stretch. That if you get Jesus for say 50 mil, which is how much he looks like he's going to cost in the end, Tielemans for 25 mil, you bring in a versatile fullback for say 20 mil, be that Hickey or a Zinchenko, someone like that. You're already up to 95 mil. You need a wide forward, and they don't come cheap. So you're looking at 30 mil plus 40 mil. You're already up then to 130 odd million quid plus. So to then think that we would get in a centre midfielder that's as good as Granit Xhaka on top of that, because you're not going to sell Xhaka for that much, to be honest. You're going to sell him for
but with all the outgoings, we worked out yesterday on yesterday's show, although it was really poor, very poor.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
1, 2, 3. It was about 5 or 6 players. We were talking about 35 mil income.
That doesn't come in straight away, Lev. That's not.
Yeah, but the outgoing doesn't go out straight away.
No,
but just one thing, Tom. Do you agree with that figure?
But we're still got outgoings we're still paying for. Do I agree with what? Sorry.
Do you agree with that figure we came up with yesterday?
Yeah. I think the money that you came up with, was it around £35 million? I think.
Yeah.
That's I think is what we would probably make.
That's from 11 players that Arsenal can sell or loan out.
Isn't it? It's crazy.
And the value of them, right? We can get 35 million at best for them, but we bought Leno, just Leno on his own for 28.
Is that including Pepe?
That's including Pepe.
Oh, maybe I wasn't. I
think
Pepe more with Pepe.
No, I mean, Lev was adding this up, so I don't know if Lev is cocked up or not.
I think we did. I think we did.
No,
we didn't add Pepe's in there. So you're looking at about 50 mil all in, aren't you?
Okay.
So 50 mil.
Torreira, Maitland-Niles, Guendouzi, Mavropanos,
Mavropanos is gone.
Maybe. Yeah, but we still got money for him this summer. It's like
2 million.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. It counts towards the awful number we're getting for these players.
Let me see.
Nelson, Hector Bellerin.
Yeah, you got
Marie,
Leno.
Yeah,
Bellerin, Tavares. I mean, Tavares could potentially be a loan, but Mari. Then you got Torreira, Maitland-Niles, Pepe, Nelson. You got. I mean, Guendouzi is gone. We didn't count Guendouzi on that as
10
well.
10 mil we got for him.
Yeah, I think it's a joke, but hey.
Look, I think when you look at the amount of money we're going to make from these players, it shows that there are two factors. Obviously, the recruitment in the past was blooming awful, that we brought in these players. Secondly, that we've allowed them to go down to that level of contract. But I always ask the question, how do you sell a player that no one wants to buy?
No, look, listen, I agree with you, Tom, but then, it goes back to the origin, like, for example, right? I don't know. I don't want to pick on anybody here, but let's say Cedric. Right? Cedric was a Southampton reject. We got him free. And then who's going to come and pay for him? Nobody was going to take him when he was leaving for free from Southampton. Somehow we thought he's good enough to come and take him. Willian. Imagine if Willian digged his heels in and said, you know what, you gave me a contract. I ain't going anywhere. That's a cushy contract. Yeah. Willian will still be here now on high salaries.
Yeah.
So then you got to look at the recruitment as team, and I can't put that solely on Arteta's doorstep or Edu, because there are people prior to those guys who've made mistakes, and the mistake has carried on. I mean, Nicolas Pepe, £70 million, and then there was all of this. I mean, they managed to do this very quietly with the way that what's his name? That Spanish guy, Raul Sanelli, the way he left. Apparently, there was a £10 million that was lost in this whole figure, and nobody knew where he's gone, and there was a lot of dodgy dealings there. So, and now we're left with a player that at best, 20 million, 25 million pounds. Somebody will put. So that represents a £50 million loss. Alexander Lacazette, 50 million write-off. Aubameyang, 50 million write-off.
It's awful.
This any sort of business is going to struggle with this, and I don't know when this is going to end. Last transfer window probably was the only one where you start to look at some signings and you think, okay, that is not going to end up in that similar scenario unless they manage to fuck up the contract negotiation and the player decides to run down the contract and he will walk away for free. So I just hope that they learn from these mistakes that previous people have made, and the mistakes that has been made this time around as well, and they use that in the advantage this time around. So you don't go out and spend silly money on players. In the same time, we've got to pay over the top for some players because we can't offer Champions League football. It has to be Europa League, so there has to be some sort of draw for them to come in. It's a difficult job. I've criticized Edu and Arteta and them like quite a lot, but in the same time, it's not easy. It's very, very hard. And if you look at Edu's track record as a director of football, somebody who's negotiated deals, there's some question marks there as well, man.
I listened to that yesterday when you were talking, and I thought you were harsh on the recruitment, that we've done, because I look at some of the recruitment, and there's been mistakes. Willian, Runarsson, they look like errors. Tavares, I don't necessarily put down as an error because we bought him on a very minimal fee, and I actually think he's worth more than we bought him in for already. I think if we were to sell him, we would make a profit on Tavares. I don't think that's too much of an issue.
You think somebody will pay more than 8 million for him?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got Premier League experience. Yes, he had a poor end to the season, but there was appearances in that season that he did well. And at 22 years of age, with 4 years left on his deal, playing in the Premier League, you will get more than 8 million quid for Tavares. I'm sure. Well, I say that Arsenal might not, but other clubs definitely would. Lokonga, I couldn't believe some of the stuff that was being said about Lokonga yesterday. This is a kid, right, that's come in at 21 years of age, like lots of clubs do, that bring in just the prospective talents. They sign players on small amount of money. 16, 17 million is not a lot of money for the player that we bought. And when he came in, I thought he did really well in the first half of the season. I thought up until the game he was dropped against Man United when Xhaka came back from injury, he was our best central midfielder up until that point during the season. And, and then he was, and I criticised Arteta for it, absolutely dropped ridiculously. He didn't deserve to be dropped at that point. And so he hasn't really got the minutes because we didn't have European football. Obviously, we didn't progress through the FA Cup and stuff like that. But I see Lokonga, the potential in that kid and that player, to be the future heir to that Thomas Partey position. He needs to get more minutes. The Europa League group stage is going to be a gold mine for him next season. And obviously the 5 subs that we have when he comes on for the last 20 minutes of Premier League games, or if we need to rotate and stuff. But Lokonga, honestly, I can't get the criticism around Lokonga. I really don't.
Who is it that you disagree with?
I know you did. I heard that.
Yeah.
I can't believe Shaheen. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No.
I actually didn't go hard on Sambi Lokonga. I think it was Dan who said maybe we should have left him where he was and said, carry on for another season. You're a captain here. You're established here. Get what we did with Saliba kind of thing. And I understood that to a certain degree. And I said, that sounds like a good idea at the time. You leave the player where he's. What we did with Saliba. Sorry?
You agreed with him all show, did you?
No, I did.
All way through the show.
No, I said I agree with that, And but then he came in, and then he was thrown in, needed to play, and he did okay. But then certain games you could tell that he's not ready for that sort of Premier League level.
Because
and that's natural.
Yeah,
that's natural, right? So that's where I was with the Congo. I didn't say we should get rid of him or we should sell him.
But this is the comments like this I don't really get. Like equal yet different says, no, I don't see it. He's El Neni 2022.
He's seen how many games of the lad? Like seriously,
and people forget stuff. Like recency bias affects it so much. He, as I said at the start, he was our best centre mid up until the Man United game, and that was December. That's 3-4 months of the season where he was our best centre mid up until that point. He really did impress during those months. I remember the game against Aston Villa, he absolutely bossed it. He was great away at Leicester, good in was it the Watford or the Newcastle, one of those 2 games. He was really solid in those games too. And I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Do you know the Tavares thing as well? Sorry, Shaheen. Tavares, I don't think Arteta's used him correctly for a start. Secondly, I think that he started well when he first was covering for Tierney. Then he had a couple of bad games and it's affected his confidence. There is a player in Tavares. I just think he's more of a wing back than a left back. Go on, Shaheen. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say, out of all the links and everything that I've been hearing, I think Ilkay Gundogan will be a good shout.
Yeah, I've been championing that idea, bringing him in. Like, yeah, absolutely.
You know,
He's a
and I
world class centre
spoke
mid.
about that yesterday.
He's a world class
You
centre
know,
mid, and if you can get him, go
this
get him.
is see that's players like Tillemans, people like Ilkay. These are the players that I was referring to at the beginning of the show, where they're established here in the Premier League. They can come in and they can contribute straight away.
Mm.
You know, they know the league, they know all the tricky grounds. You know, in Gundogan's case, knows the manager. They worked together before. He can come in, and I think we can all agree that he's a very good upgrade on Granit Xhaka.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Like, there's no doubt in my mind he's an upgrade on Granit Xhaka, and if you could get him in, he's one of the players that maybe for a smaller fee, depending on what City would want, because he's 31, turning 32 at the end of this year. I think he only has a year left on his deal this season, so it's not like he's going to be wildly expensive. So yeah, there's one.
Yeah.
If you get rid of Xhaka and you're telling me that Gundogan's coming in, I'm a happy man.
You know what, Tom? Another thing. We were talking about finances earlier. I don't think it's going to cost a lot to take Ilkay Gundogan from City.
Say again, sorry.
Something maybe, I don't know. I would say something between maybe 20, 25, if that.
I mean, let me just check.
Isn't he a bit injury prone though?
Well, yeah,
that's my concern with him.
There is concerns over his fitness, about how regularly he could play. So yeah, his contract runs out in 23. So he has a year left on his deal. He turns 32 in October. So I think if you offered 15 million, to be honest, if you're Manchester City and you're offered 15 million quid, I don't know why you accept it. To be honest, I would just have him until the end of his contract, for the year. I don't look Gundogan for a season at 31 is probably worth the 15 mil to Manchester City.
There's another one as well that I saw is been going around. This has started going around from, I think, Saturday evening, Sunday. I don't know how true it is, but Jared Bowen from West Ham. That's another signing that is a good player.
I can't see that happen.
No, West Ham would ask for 80 odd million quid, and we go, okay, no thanks. That's just not going to happen. I don't see Arsenal spending over 50 mil on a player this summer. I don't see that at all.
But I think they should, man. I think they should at least choose one player.
Well, this is where it doesn't really fall on Arteta, though, isn't it? This is where we'd start. As
no, but I didn't say anything about Arteta.
No, but this is what I'm just saying. Like, this is where Dan's right in regards to his energy being directed at the ownership. It's that lack of financial freedom that Arteta needs.
I just think if I was Josh, or if I was an advisor to Josh Tom, I would just tell him, listen, just make sure you get one player that gets the fans excited. We're not demanding for 5 or 6 world-class players here. We know that's not going to happen, right? But at least give us one. Give us something to be excited about for next season. And then that's the
Jesus and Tielemans not make you excited.
Don't see it happening, huh?
Just Jesus and Tielemans not excite you, because they're the types of signings I've genuinely been waiting for Arsenal to start making for a while.
I said they're both players that can come in and make a difference and contribute straight away because they're established in the league, and that is good signing. But I'm talking about like a Gnabry type of signing, like a player with reputation, a world-class player that would come in and all the fans would be like, you remember when we signed Ozil outside Emirates type of thing? Get the fans excited a little bit.
You want a talisman. That's what you want.
Get a marquee signing.
Yeah.
Get a world-class player. Right now, it's been a while since we got a world-class signing.
The problem is that, we have to build up still to be able to do that. The only clubs that are signing genuinely world-class in the Premier League are Liverpool, City and Chelsea. Genuinely established world-class players. They're the only clubs that are doing it. And because we're not at that level. You look at Spurs, Spurs got Son because they gambled on a decent player from Bayer Leverkusen. I talked about this on this morning's show. They developed Kane, and they're their 2 world-class players. Like Kulusevski, Bentancur have got potential. I think we saw that in the 6 months, that they had a great 6 months. Kulusevski massively overachieved. You look at his XG, it's ridiculous. But they could, from what we've seen of them and their age profile, one day become world-class. And the teams like Arsenal and Spurs, and I think, Man United are a bit of a grey area because of what they are. The stature that they are means they could sign players like Bruno Fernandes and Varane and stuff like that. But they are a mess of a club. They're just a mess of a club. So Arsenal and Spurs are in a position where how we've fallen so much, we're going to struggle to bring in those genuinely world-class players. So we're fishing in the market that one level below that. And we've got to be really smart about the ones that we bring in. We weren't before. We weren't smart in the past about the ones that we were bringing in at that level because we were just wasting, Mustafi looked okay at Valencia, awful. Xhaka is not and never will be a world-class central midfielder. But you look at like the signings that we're starting to make, Gabriel, I can see like a potentially world-class centre-back in him. Kieran Tierney, you can see a potentially world-class left-back in him. If Tomiyasu played like he did in the 16 games across a full season, you could see a potential to be a real top-class right-back in him. Martin Odegaard in spurts, Shaheen, not consistently, but certainly in certain games, put in world-class level performances, in my opinion. But he needs to put it in across a whole season. He can't just do it in 8, 9, 10 games. He has to do it across the whole season.
He needs the right people around him as well, though, Tom. Like, people don't understand that to get the best out of someone like Odegaard, he needs somebody who's constantly winning that battle in midfield and giving him the ball. I mean, yes, he contributes to winning that midfield, but he needs someone beside him to be physical, to dominate, to give him the more possession Odegaard has, the better player he looks. It's as simple as that.
Soph joining us in the chat box says Spurs finishing above us are finishing in a bigger pond because of Champions League football. But to be honest, I look at the links that they're looking at. They brought in Perisic, who is a 33-year-old. He's basically a Serie A Willian, style signing. I'm not saying he's but it's that style of signing. Someone who's won the league, won trophies, and he's in the twilight years of his career. And you don't know what you're going to get from Perisic next season. It's a bit of a risk, and we'll see how it works out. I think it's a decent signing for depth when you've already got Heung-min Son. Willian came in and started for us against Fulham in his first game. Perisic ain't starting over Son, and that's the difference between those two. So it's a good. Willian would have been an okay signing if we had a world-class left winger already, but we didn't. Richarlison, how he starts. Rate him. How he starts over Jesus in the Brazil team, I don't know. Maybe because it's just this. It's just.
He's not. You know what? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's got end product.
Well, I'm trying to think of a season where Jesus hasn't outscored him, and I can't off the top of my head think of one where he has. Jed Spence, is another one of those potential signings. Got a lot of potential in him. Looks good in the Championship.
He's gone to Tottenham,
could
hasn't
be
he?
a success. Say again, sorry.
So he's gone to Tottenham, hasn't he?
Well, he's one of the ones they're looking at trying.
See, we should be looking at him instead of Cedric.
Well, the thing
he was great against us.
If you're Jed Spence, though, and you say, well, I've got to get in over Emerson and Doherty, or I've got to try and get in over, a starter in Tomiyasu, you can see why he would go to Spurs in addition to
Emerson. Emerson is arguably, it was on a similar. You could say that, I guess, but
he's dreadful. But got into Champions League with him. So, Jed Spence is going to be their third right back in 3 years. So they've got 2 wrong, and they're hoping that
I don't think he will go in as a starter, though.
Tomiyasu?
No, Jed Spence.
Oh, right away. Maybe not right away.
He goes to Tottenham.
Conte loves his wing back, and I think he may see him as that. We'll have to wait and see. But the thing is, what the point is that I'm making that we've now elongated, is that even though Spurs are at the point where they're looking at they're in the Champions League, none of those players are world class. Even going into 4th spot doesn't get us world class players. We've got to build up to that point. We've got to build up to that level because we've made so many mistakes in 10 years and set ourselves back so far that it's just taken us. It's going to take us so much longer than people think it is. Now, what world class mid-20s signing, and chat box is open to you, do you think Arsenal could have got for a figure that they would be willing to pay for this summer?
I think that the tricky bit in this question is the figure they were willing to pay.
Yeah.
Because those players that are there, they're available. You can go and get a Serge Gnabry coming in, give him
you really think we could
drop a contract on the table?
Europa League? Do you think
I
don't think we convince him.
Listen, you put a contract on the table, right? Man United got Paul Pogba on Europa League. Right? You put if you want the guy, you go out there, you put the money on the table, you make him choose to come over there. You pay Bayern, you give him a good salary, give him a good contract, he will come. He will come and play. What, are you telling me he doesn't want to come to London, Arsenal, great stadium? Yeah, okay, come in, tell him, there's talk about this project and this and that. Tell him, look, come in. We'll build a team around you. You've got good players. Next season, we can be in the Champions League. Why wouldn't he come?
Because we're in the Europa League.
For someone with Champions
I
League,
think you put the right money on the table, you will come. He will come with the right signings and that you see.
What you say with the right signings, but he would be the signing, you know.
No, listen. This is what I said, right? I said, if you want a player, you go out there, you put the right money on the table for the player and for the club. Tell him the project. Tell him this is what we're building. We're going to sign, I don't know, a Tillemans or another kind of player, Jesus coming in. There's going to be a good team. You already got Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard. You have to put that on the screen, didn't you? Yes,
this is what we do.
You build a package. You know, this is what Edu is getting paid handsomely to do. Vinay as well. You know, they need to earn their money. Go out there, make these things happen.
Can I say something, Shaheen? Like it's not just about going out there and saying, "Oi," forcing someone to join. It's how we act in the transfer window. What we do. No, in the sense of the message we put. In the sense of the message we put out by the type of players we bring in. You go and get a talisman striker and you pay for him and you put him in that team. Other players around the globe start going, "Oh, Osimhen's going there. I might look at Arsenal as well." Whereas right now they're looking at it, and you got Eddie and Nketiah up top. There's maybe talk of Jesus. We never fully address all our issues, and I don't think any player right now is confident when they look at Arsenal whether or not we're ambitious enough at top level.
I agree with you. 100% agree with you. And this is what I'm saying, that if you get a marquee signing, right, like, again, for argument's sake, a Gnabry type, right? First of all, it makes the fans excited. You know, everyone's going to be like, I can't wait to see this guy play next season, kind of thing, right? Another thing, exactly as you just said, other players would look at it and think, "Oh, I don't mind playing with them." You know, if I go to Arsenal, it's going to be Gnabry, it's going to be the Saka, Martinelli, Thomas Partey. We've got good defense, good keeper. Jesus is going there. It's not that bad. Young team, young players. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a bit of that.
I think the only one, and Comdine said the only one, Milinkovic-Savic at Lazio is genuinely the only world-class player, I think, available for around that money. But even then, you know, there were reports from Italy that he'd already turned Arsenal down. You know, Arsenal were interested in him. He's not interested in coming to Arsenal. And so this is the kind of barriers that we face, is that when we go in for those types of players, like we tried with Vlahovic, whether or not you think we did, you know, in January, was not interested in coming to Arsenal at all, wanted to go to Juventus. And you can't blame the guy.
Was that?
You know,
Vlahovic.
Mate, I don't think we were ever in for him.
I know we were.
Listen, we did a show with Fabrizio before the transfer window, before the window started, right? And he said there is no interest from the player to go to Arsenal.
No.
And his exact words, the agent probably will not even answer Arsenal's phone call. Now, I see this, and I'm not saying I don't think we were ever in for him because of what he said, right? If you're in for a £70 million striker, okay, surely you got another plan. If that does not happen, if you go in for a £70 million striker, you have acknowledged that you need goals on top. So what happens if the deal does not go through? You have plan B, you have plan C. Arsenal had nothing. It was just him. Said, we tried, we couldn't get it. We tried, we'll move on, maybe in January. No, it's not how it works. You go for a guy. If it doesn't work out, there is a plan B. You go for him.
Wait, Tom's been blocking some people, Shaheen, almost as much as you today.
Has he?
Hey, look, I'm just there's standards in the chat.
He's blocking more than Mayweather today.
If you start being idiots in the chat, you don't stick.
Called me a plank. He blocked someone for calling me a plank earlier. I didn't see it.
Only I'm allowed to call you a plank.
No, that's how it works. Listen, people are entitled to say what they want to say. I don't normally take notice of it. But I see Sophie has said something that is interesting as well, and I was just going to come up to this as well. That's exactly that. Kroenke's made a statement with LA Rams. Why can't they do that with Arsenal? You know how much money they spend on that?
Because
the stadium is $5 billion.
We did spend more than any other club last summer.
No, but we're talking about
we did.
A certain. We're not talking about just last window. We're talking about the time that they've been here, and especially now.
Over £1 billion, Shaheen, since they've been here.
Yeah, well, where is it gone?
Where is it gone? Spent over £1 billion. The club spent over £1 billion.
They spent £1 billion on what? Shit players.
No, right.
Not
but
all
that's
of
the
them.
point.
Not all of
Since
them.
2018, when they've had full control, how much have we spent in those years? Since
Okay, and
2018?
what we have purchased with that money.
Yeah, okay, but that's fine. But the point is then if we're pointing the finger at the owners for saying that they're not spending money, we can't because the club is spending money. Since they took full ownership in 2018. Now listen quickly.
Listen, I hear what you're saying.
Listen to me. Stop interrupting me, man.
Go on.
He's too used to having his own show, Tom. And
Yeah,
having
I
his
know,
own
man. I'm not
Wait,
used to
wait,
this.
you're a guest on this
Don't
show.
worry, it's
Shaheen.
all right. I'll get him back on the Monday show.
Shaheen,
Don't
you're
worry.
a guest.
So in 2019, we spent 144 million. In 2020, we spent 77 million. In 2021, we spent 150 million. And if we go back to 2018, we spent another 72 million. You know, we've spent upwards of 500 million quid, just off the top of my head, maybe just shy of that in 4 years. We've spent a lot of money. Like it's about what we spent it on, as you were saying, Shaheen, before you rudely interrupted me.
Listen, can I?
Yes,
now. Listen,
I
I don't agree. I don't disagree that they spend this money, but what they spent it on, that is the problem. And listen, just like any business, the buck ultimately stops with the owners because if you get someone like Raul Sanelli who's done a dodgy deal, and there's some money here and there. At the end of the day, they just give him a sack. He goes on, gets another job. We're left with that problem.
Yeah.
And others have to sort this out. And the owners ultimately, and listen, Cronkies have shown, I don't buy this thing, right? That, they this. Cronkies have shown that they can build a team to win things and compete at highest level. Just LA Rams is a good example, right? It's just a matter of them wanting to do that at Arsenal or not. That's all.
I mean, Tom, very quickly, you said you asked the question earlier in regards to our signings. What do you do if people don't want to buy your players? But my question is then, why are we buying so many players that people don't want?
Well, that's the thing is that you look at the players we moved on, Aubameyang, Ozil, Socrates, Mustafi. There's loads more. But most of them, weren't signed by Arteta. We can talk about the renewal of Aubameyang, obviously.
But people used to want to poach our players, didn't they? Do you remember?
Yeah, absolutely.
People wanted our players. Now people are avoiding our players, apart from someone like a Saka, who
because they are
maybe
high salary. Who's gonna take Hector Bellerin and pay him $100,000 a week?
I don't know. This is Tom's show, so I'll let him decide.
Yeah, that's the problem. and
again,
I still,
he wasn't signed under the current recruitment.
Yeah, no. I didn't say. I was just answering the point.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the point: is that we need to improve. Arteta made mistakes at the start of his tenure with Willian and Runarsson and these players. But since then, I look at the players that we've bought, and they're either playing week in, week out for the team, or if they're not, like Lokonga and Tavares in particular, we make a profit on Tavares, and Lokonga is one that's deemed for the future, which is fine. Every club does that. Every club makes those types of signings. But Ramsdale's starting for us week in, week out. White's starting for us week in, week out. Ødegaard's starting for us week in, week out. Gabriel's starting for us week in, week out. Partey, if he's fit, starting for us week in, week out. And all of those players have took us to a top 4 challenge. Tomiyasu, exactly.
No, I don't think these signings were bad, Tom. I really don't. But we relied too heavily on our young kids, and eventually we paid the price.
Hi, Sophie says it hits Tommy, Rambo, White, Ødegaard. I mean, not to include Partey and Gabriel, I think is unfair considering that, a player that was never injured prior to coming to Arsenal, never ever. There's no hint of injury in Partey. And when, before he got injured in 2022, he was our best player in 2022, up until that game against Crystal Palace, wasn't it?
No,
he was our best player. So I think it's harsh not to call him a hit because it's taken out of his hands, that injury side of things. So I think that's harsh. But that's when you look at those players and you go Partey, Gabriel, Ødegaard, Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, that's 5 players of how many he's signed. I think we've signed on top of that, Willian, Runarsson, Lokonga, Tavares. Help me out anymore that we've signed. I think that's it. So 9?
Yeah, I think so.
Matt Ryan on loan, but obviously, we did a job for whatever the amount of games he played. But then you count back the number of signings that we made in, say, the 8 years before that he came in, and I guarantee our hit rate is nowhere near 50%. Nowhere near 50%. I think you'd be lucky to get to about 25% hit rate. So in just that short space of time, Arteta's doubled the hit rate of our, our appreciation for the signings that we're looking at and thinking they're hits at the club. Cedric, thank you, people in the chat box. He was another one. Pablo Marie as well, in fairness. But the point is, it's the players that are invested to start are the ones that we're getting hits off of. And it's now about continuing that trend. It's about continuing the trend. In depth, we've signed players like Cedric, like Marie, like Willian to be depth. We need to stop doing that. We need to sign competitors. This is why I said replacing Xhaka is not the answer. We should be strengthening on top of Xhaka.
No. Competition, not backup.
Absolutely.
Basically.
It should be about competition, not backup. Anyway, I'm conscious of the time. It's been a good debate, really good show, boys. Chat box, make sure you show these boys some love. Link to the Arsenal Lounge is in the video description. Typically doing a show most Mondays, of course, during off-season, not as consistent, but certainly when the season is back every Monday at 8 p.m. I'm sure we'll be back again with our good friend Mo as well. But they did a really fantastic show. I didn't agree with all the points, but still a good show to get different points of view with Dan Potts yesterday. So make sure you go and check that one out on the channel. Lev, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, my friend.
No, it's been a pleasure being here, guys. If you have not followed us on Arsenal Lounge, please come across. Tom's always there on Mondays. If you think Shaheen and Tom have been at it today, you've seen nothing yet, come to the Monday shows and you'll see something interesting.
No, on Mondays we normally,
no, we're in the same shut up, Shaheen. I'm just trying to sell the channel. Just move on.
Mate, honestly, I just the amount of times I watch the chat box, it's like, Shaheen, let him talk, man.
It always cuts me off.
I was just trying to make my point across. But I'm not used to not doing that. So
no.
Well,
my apologies if
we go for our meal.
Over anybody.
Can you stop cutting him off? You're talking. Sorry, Tom.
Shaheen, thank you. I appreciate your time as always.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I apologize if I talked over anybody. Except Lev. So basically, Tom, I apologize if I talked over you. Lev can do one.
It's all good. As I've said, do go and subscribe to the Arsenal Lounge. Fantastic content over there, as always. And you get to see this ugly mug as well. That's not me, not Shane. I'm not talking about Shane. Make sure you do go and check it out. I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. bright and early for all the latest Arsenal updates on transfer news, further reaction to Marquinhos being signed, and some more links to the likes of Osimhen and Tielemans and Jesus and all that goodness. So we'll see you then. Have a fantastic evening. And as always, up the Arsenal.